Lyra stood alone on the edge of the colony platform, watching the twin suns fall behind the hills. The wind carried dust and silence across the empty land. She wore a plain gray uniform, stained with machine oil. Her hands were rough from repairs, and her heart had grown quiet over the years. She had once lived in a tall house filled with glowing lights and rich clothes. Her family had been proud nobles of the House of Inari, respected across their world. But that ended the day her test results came in. Infertile, the healers had said. That one word changed everything. Her mother stopped speaking to her. Her father barely looked at her. They spoke of her behind closed doors, calling her a waste, a broken link in the noble chain. The House of Inari had always bragged about strong bloodlines. They held power through range bonds and many heirs. But Lyra couldn't give them that. So they erased her from their plans. When she turned 19, her parents told her she was being sent to serve the Empire at a distant outpost. She was proud at first. She believed it was a chance to prove herself. Then she arrived on Outpost 17. It was a half-forgotten station, broken, rusty, and cold. No officers waited for her. No welcome banners, just old machines, flickering lights, and a few tired workers. Her quarters were small and smelled of metal. She slept alone, worked alone, and ate in silence. That's when she understood. She had not been sent there as honor. She had been thrown away. Still, she didn't cry. She learned how to fix things. She helped when she could. She built trust among the other workers, many of whom were also sent there for things they couldn't control: bad legs, low marks, wrong families. "We make a good team of forgotten ones," joked an old engineer once, handing her a warm cup of SYNTH-T. Lyra smiled. A small one, but real. Then, one morning, the warning lights flashed. Someone or something was approaching the gates. Most ships announced themselves. This one didn't. It was dark, sleek, and carried no flags. It moved slowly, almost wounded. As it landed, sparks flew from its engines. Smoke rose from one side. Lyra ran to the platform, her tool bag in hand. The outer hatch of the ship hissed, and the ramp lowered with a heavy groan. A tall figure in black armor stumbled down, then fell to the ground. Everyone stepped back. Lyra stepped forward. She saw his chest rising. He was alive, badly hurt, but breathing. She knelt beside him and lifted his helmet gently. Under the metal, she saw a human face. Pale skin, dark hair, and a scar across one cheek. His eyes opened just a little. They were gray, deep, and calm, even in pain. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't answer. He fainted. She called for help and dragged him to the medic room. The local healer was nervous, unsure how to treat someone in such strange armor. Lyra didn't wait. She cleaned the wounds, changed the bandages, and connected the healing pads for 2 days. He didn't speak, only rested. On the third day, he opened his eyes and looked straight at her. "You stayed," he said, voice soft but strong. "Yes," she replied. "Why?" She thought for a moment. "Because you needed help, and I know what it's like to fall and be left alone." His gaze stayed on her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Thank you." His name was Kale. He said little, but slowly he began to speak. He asked questions, simple ones at first. How the outpost worked, who lived there, what people did. Then he asked her name. "Lyra," she answered. "Just Lyra." He tilted his head. "Just?" She looked down. "It's all I need." Now, Kale watched her for a second, then said nothing more. He never asked about her past. He never judged her clothes or her quiet voice. He simply listened. In the evenings, they sat together outside. He watched the stars while she repaired small tools. Sometimes, he handed her pieces without a word. It became a habit. And deep in her heart, a spark returned. Not hope, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something better. The days passed slowly at Outpost 17. But something had changed. Kale was no longer just a quiet stranger in armor. After his strength returned, he began walking around the station. Though his steps were heavy and his voice calm, everyone noticed his presence. Workers stood straighter. Some even moved out of his way without realizing why. Lyra stayed close, helping him adjust to the systems and routines. He asked questions not just to learn, but to understand, and the more he listened, the more he saw how much she did for everyone. She helped the cooks when food supplies ran low. She repaired broken power lines during storms. She shared her rations when someone was sick. And she never asked for thanks. One evening, after the generator sparked and shut down, Kale found her halfway inside a tight panel, hands black with grease. "You do more than anyone else here," he said. Lyra blinked and pulled herself out. "I just do what needs to be done. They should see it," he added. She gave a small shrug. "They don't." Kale didn't push her. Instead, he picked up a tool and handed it to her. "What next?" She looked at him, surprised. "You want to help. You help me." They worked side by side. No fancy titles, no orders, just hands, tools, and quiet understanding. By the end of the week, whispers started spreading. "Who's he? That armor isn't normal. I think he's someone powerful." But Kale ignored the talk. He stayed with Lyra, asking more about her life. One day, as they shared a simple meal, he finally asked, "Why are you here?" Lyra went quiet. She stared at the warm metal table for a moment. "Because my family didn't want me anymore," she said softly. Kale didn't speak, waiting patiently. "I can't have children," she added. "In my world, that means I'm useless." They didn't say it straight, but they made me feel it every day. And then they sent me here. Kale's eyes didn't change. He didn't flinch. He didn't look at her with pity. Instead, he said, "What they lost, I see it." Lyra looked up. "You care. You protect. You lead without force. You're more valuable than they ever knew." His words didn't heal everything, but they warmed a part of her that had been frozen for years. Just as she was about to thank him, alarms blared across the outpost. Flashing red lights lit up the sky. Loud sirens echoed through the air. The small watchtower sent out a warning. Unmarked ships incoming. Kale's expression turned cold. He stood up, fast and focused. "Take cover," he told her. But Lyra didn't move. "I won't leave." The others, they ran to the command center, where a few frightened workers tried to scan the sky. "3 ships," someone cried. "No answers to our calls." The ships landed hard, shaking the ground. The raiders poured out tall armored figures with sharp weapons and glowing masks. They were not here to talk. Their leader stepped forward and shouted, "Hand over the man in black armor, and we will leave." Everyone turned to Kale. His face was calm. He stepped forward, ready to face them alone. But Lyra grabbed his arm. "No," she said. "You saved us. Now it's our turn." "They came for me," Kale said. "I don't care," she replied. "We stand together." He stared at her, then gave a slow nod. With no trained guards, Lyra took charge. She pointed to the towers, to the emergency shields, and to the backup defense grid. Kale helped her route power while she handed out pulse rifles. "We hold the line." Lyra told the workers, "Don't think about what we can't do. Think about what we must do." The first wave of raiders charged. Lyra stood at the front, aiming carefully. Kale was beside her, his weapon glowing with strange energy. Together, they pushed back the attackers. The battle was short but intense. After losing a few fighters, the raiders retreated to their ships and flew off, defeated. Everyone on the outpost stood in silence. Then they turned to Lyra and cheered. She didn't smile at first. She was too tired. But when Kale looked at her and said, "You were brilliant," a soft laugh escaped her lips. For the first time in a long while, she felt proud. The outpost was quiet after the attack. The sky was clear, but the ground still smelled of smoke. Workers slowly repaired broken panels, counted supplies, and helped the injured. No one had expected Lyra to lead. Yet, in their time of fear, she had been the voice they followed. She didn't boast. She didn't want praise. She just made sure everyone was safe. Kale watched her from a distance. He stood near the outer gate, his black armor scratched and burnt, but his eyes calm. He had seen many battles before, but something about the way Lyra stood and fought impressed him deeply. He walked over to her, carrying a fresh pack of rations. She was fixing a cracked energy relay with her sleeves rolled up and hands covered in grease. "You should rest," Cal said softly. "Can't," Lyra replied. "We have wounded lights. If the shields fail again, next time we won't be lucky." He handed her a bottle of water. "You saved them." She took a sip. "Not alone." "Still," Cal said, "you showed courage, leadership, and heart. You don't belong here. Not anymore." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Cal stared up at the stars. "This place hid you, but you were never meant to. Stay hidden. I came here for repairs and shelter, but I found something far more valuable." Lyra blinked. "Valuable?" "Yes," he said. "You." Before she could ask more, his wrist device beeped. He looked down at the glowing screen. His face grew serious. "They're coming again," he said. Lyra's single quotes as heart dropped. "The Raiders." "No," he replied. "Someone else." Within an hour, a large shadow covered the sky. A massive black ship appeared, floating without sound. It didn't match any known design in their records. Its surface shimmered like glass, and strange runes glowed along its edges. Lyra stepped back. The workers around her stared, frozen. The ship opened slowly. A tall, sharp-looking alien stepped out, surrounded by guards in dark silver armor. They marched straight to Kale, then kneeled. "Alpha," the leader said, "we have come to bring you home." Gasps spread through the outpost. Lyra stood still, eyes wide. Kale gave a quiet sigh and finally turned to face Lyra. "I didn't lie," he said. "I just never told you. I'm Kale of the Alpha bloodline, ruler of the hidden human kingdom, long thought lost." "You're a king?" Lyra whispered. He nodded. "Yes, and I disappeared to find something real, something pure, away from politics, greed, and power." "Why come here?" she asked. "I didn't plan it," he replied. "My ship was damaged during a mission. I landed here by chance. But finding you, that wasn't chance." She looked at him, unsure what to say. "You stood by me when no one else did. You helped me without asking who I was. And when danger came, you didn't run, you led." Kale turned to his guards. "Prepare my ship. We leave soon." Then he looked back at her. "Come with me." Lyra took a deep breath. Her hands trembled. "I'm not royalty. I'm just broken." "No," Kale said firmly. "You are whole. Your worth isn't tied to what others expect. It's in your actions, your heart, your strength. But your people, they'll learn," he said. "If they don't, then I'll teach them." Lyra looked around. This outpost had been her prison once. Now it felt like a memory. "Do you really want me there?" she asked. Kale stepped closer. "I want you by my side not because you are perfect but because you are real." After a moment, she gave a small nod. "Then let's go," she said. The workers clapped and cheered, some with tears in their eyes. Many hugged her goodbye. A few whispered thanks. Even the old engineer who once joked about being forgotten saluted her. As Kel's ship rose into the air, Lyra stood at the window, staring down at the outpost one last time. She didn't feel weak anymore. She didn't feel unwanted. She was going towards something unknown, but this time, she wasn't being sent away. This time, she was being chosen. Lyra had never seen a ship like this before. The corridors inside Kel's vessel were wide, smooth, and silent. Lights glowed softly from the walls, and every surface was clean and shining. The crew bowed respectfully when Kel passed, but many looked at Lyra with quiet surprise. No one said anything to her, not yet, but their eyes spoke enough. They didn't expect to see her beside their king. Not someone in worn clothes with oil-stained hands. Not someone from a forgotten outpost. But Kale walked beside her without hesitation. His expression calm, his steps steady. Whenever she slowed or hesitated, he gently guided her forward. "Don't let their stares bother you," he said quietly. "They don't know you yet." She nodded, though her heart beat fast. The ship traveled through a gate of stars and entered a hidden system, Kel's homeworld. It was not on any public map. Guarded by cloaked satellites and ancient machines, the system had been sealed off. For years, it held planets with green oceans, glowing forests, and floating cities. As the ship approached the capital, Lyra stood near a tall window, her mouth slightly open. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Kale smiled. "It is, but it is also grown cold." When they landed, a group of nobles waited outside the palace. Tall, proud figures in long coats stood in a line, their eyes fixed on Kale. Beside them were advisors and soldiers, all curious, all silent. Kale stepped out first. "Welcome back, Your Highness," an older man said with a deep bow. Kale nodded. "Thank you, General. I have returned, and I bring someone with me." He turned slightly and offered his hand. Lyra hesitated, then stepped forward. Holding his hand gently. A quiet gasp spread through the group. One noblewoman tilted her head. "And who is she?" Kale didn't blink. "Her name is Lyra. She stood by me when I was weak. She fought beside me. She will walk with me now, not as a servant, but as someone I trust." The nobles whispered. Some looked confused. Others looked displeased. But Kale didn't care. He led Lyra through the palace. It was grand, with white stone halls and silver banners hanging high above. Statues of past rulers lined the walls, their eyes carved to show power. Lyra felt small under their gaze. They reached a private chamber. Kale asked everyone to leave, then sat with her by the wide window. "You don't need to impress them," he said. "But I don't belong here," she replied softly. "They all see it. They don't know your story yet," he said. "But they will." In the days that followed, Lyra tried her best. She learned the customs, attended small council meetings, and listened more than she spoke. Kale stayed close, helping her adjust. But not everyone welcomed her. A noblewoman named Varena, tall and graceful, began to challenge Lyra in public. "Do you even understand our history?" Varena asked once during a banquet. "What role do you plan to play here?" Lyra looked down, unsure how to answer. Kale spoke up. "She plays the role of someone I chose. That is enough." But Varena didn't stop. The next day, she sent a formal request for a trial, a test of worth, she declared. A tradition among the Alpha courts. If she is to stand beside our ruler, let her prove herself. Lyra read the terms. The trial would test courage, wisdom, and leadership. It would not be easy. Many had failed before. Kale offered to cancel it. "You don't have to prove anything." But Lyra shook her head. "If I walk beside you, I must stand tall. Let me try." He looked into her eyes. "Then I will be there, every step." The trial was set. Nobles gathered in the grand hall. The challenge would begin at dawn. Lyra stood alone at the center, dressed in plain gray, with nothing fancy to protect her, only her will. Kale stood in the crowd, eyes locked on her. He didn't speak. He didn't move. But in his silent gaze, she felt strength. As the doors closed, Lyra took a deep breath. She had been abandoned before, but now she would not be pushed aside again. The grand hall was silent. Lyra stood in the center, her heart beating fast. Nobles filled the balconies above, their faces calm but watching closely. Many had already judged her, but this trial would decide whether she could stand beside the Alpha King. The judge, an elder named Soren, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the hall. "This trial will test the heart, the mind, and the courage of the one who stands before us," he said. 3 tests, succeed, and you earn your place. Fail, and you leave the court in silence. Lyra nodded. "I understand." The first trial began. She was taken to a stone chamber where 3 paths waited behind 3 doors. Only one path led to the exit. The others were illusions created by light, sound, and confusion. Many failed here by panicking or rushing. Lyra didn't guess. She studied the floor, touched the door handles, and listened carefully. The second door had a strange humming sound behind it, like a running power core. But the third door had warmth air flowing gently beneath it. She chose the third door and stepped forward. After a few turns, she found the exit. Waiting there was Soren, watching. "You used logic and patience," he said. "Good." Next was the second trial. She entered a room where 4 holograms of people stood. Each one told her a different story about a damaged station and a call for help. But only one told the truth. The others lied to protect themselves or shift blame. Her task: decide who spoke the truth and who caused the disaster. She listened to each one, calmly asking questions. One seemed nervous. Another gave too many small details, as if rehearsed. But the third, a woman with a quiet voice, gave answers that matched the data logs Lyra had studied in her own time. She pointed at the fourth. "He's lying," Lyra said. He blamed the others, but his story changed twice when I asked about the power failure. The judge nodded. "Truth is often quiet." "Well done." The final trial was the hardest. She was brought to a tall chamber where a young child cried behind an energy shield. Near the wall stood a button. Soren explained the test. Pressing the button will lower the shield and save the child, but doing so will cause harm to the royal defense system. The choice is yours. Lyra didn't even wait. She ran to the button and pressed it. The shield dropped. She grabbed the child and held her close, protecting her as sparks flew across the walls. When the alarm stopped, the lights returned to normal. Soren walked over slowly. "You chose a life over a system." "What use is a system?" Lyra asked. "If it doesn't protect the innocent." The old judge smiled for the first time. "Your trials are complete." Later that evening, the court gathered in the palace circle. Kale stood in full royal armor, his long black coat flowing behind him. The nobles waited to hear the result. Soren stepped forward. "Lyra of Outpost 17 has passed all 3 trials with courage, wisdom, and heart. She chose kindness over safety, truth over noise, and life over machines." Kale turned to Lyra, his expression soft. "You never had to prove yourself to me," he said. "But you did it anyway, not for power, not for glory, but to stand with pride." Then he faced the court. "From this day on," he declared, "Lyra is no longer just a visitor. She is the guardian of the Alpha Flame. She will walk beside me as protector, guide, and voice of the people." Some nobles nodded in respect. A few remained silent, but none dared speak against the king. Varena lowered her head and stepped back. Later, in the quiet garden, Lyra sat on a stone bench. Her hands rested in her lap, and her eyes looked up at the stars. Kale joined her. "How do you feel?" "Not sure," she said with a small smile. "Strong, but tired." He chuckled. "You were always strong. Now others see it too." She looked at him. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Kale nodded. "Thank you for reminding me what real strength looks like." Under the stars, they sat together in peace. Not as ruler and guest, but as equals. Weeks passed, but Lyra's name did not fade. People across the Hidden Kingdom began to speak of her. Stories spread from city towers to farming colonies about the outsider who passed the ancient trials, the woman who chose to save a child over a system. Many called her brave, others called her lucky, but all agreed on one thing: she was no ordinary guest inside the palace. Lyra learned quickly. She attended council meetings, not as a silent shadow, but as the guardian of the Alpha Flame. She offered ideas that surprised the nobles, simple, thoughtful plans that helped small colonies and outer stations. She remembered what it was like to be forgotten. Kale watched her with quiet pride. He didn't try to shape her. He simply stood beside her and let her be herself. One evening, after a long day of reports and travel, Kale invited her to the central hall. It was a wide, open space, used only during royal celebrations. Golden lamps hung from above, and water fountains made soft sounds around the edges. She entered wearing a clean gray robe. Still unsure how to dress like royalty, Kale wore dark ceremonial armor, though without his crown. "Why are we here?" she asked softly. He smiled. "Because it's time the people see what I've always seen." Music began to play. Soft, ancient notes echoed through the hall. Doors opened, and people from across the capital entered. Farmers, workers, healers, engineers, everyday people. Not just nobles. It was not a royal ball. It was something better. Kale stepped forward and spoke. "We often forget that strength doesn't always wear armor," he said. "Sometimes strength fixes machines. Sometimes it helps a stranger. Sometimes it chooses kindness when cruelty is easier." He turned to Lyra. "She reminded me of what leadership should be. Today, we welcome her not just as my companion, not just as a title, but as someone who changed our kingdom's path. He raised his hand. Lyra, will you walk with me not only through the court, but through life? The room went silent. Lyra felt her heart stop. Then she smiled real, full, and without fear. Yes, she said, I will. Applause filled the hall. People clapped not because of tradition, but because they felt it in their hearts. After the ceremony, Lyra stepped out into the moonlit garden. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from joy. Cale joined her again. Are you nervous? He asked. A little, she laughed. I never thought this would be my life. Me neither, he said. But sometimes, the path we need finds us when we least expect it. They sat under the glowing tree in the center of the garden. Your people seem to accept me now, she said. They do. He nodded. Because you never forced them to. You earned their respect. Not by blood, but by choice. Just then, a royal messenger arrived with a crystal scroll. Cale opened it, his face darkening slightly. What is it? Lyra asked. Your parents, he said. They've sent a request. They want to visit. Lyra froze. After so many years, after they had pushed her away and left her to fade. Now they wanted to come. You don't have to see them. Cale said gently, not unless you want to. She thought for a moment, then stood. I will see them. Cale tilted his head. You're sure? Yes. She said, I want them to see who I've become, not to punish them, but to show them that their words didn't break me. The next morning, her parents arrived in a private shuttle. They stepped out in fine clothes, their faces uncertain. They looked around the shining palace with nervous eyes. When Lyra entered the room, they stood still. Her mother spoke first. You've grown strong. Her father added, We were told you passed the trials. Lyra nodded. I did. There was silence. Her mother cleared her throat. We were wrong. We thought you couldn't bring honor to the family. But now you're with the Alpha King, her father said. You've become more than we ever imagined. Lyra looked at them calmly. I became who I am because you left me. You gave up on me. But I didn't give up on myself. Her parents looked down. I forgive you, she said gently. But I no longer belong to your shame. I'm not your burden. I am not your broken child. Cale stepped beside her. She is my partner, my equal. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. But she said nothing more. When they left, Lyra stood tall. Not for revenge, but for peace. Many seasons passed since Lyra stood alone at Outpost 17. Now, her name was spoken with respect across the hidden human kingdom. Not as royalty by blood, but as someone chosen by actions, not titles. The guardian of the Alpha Flame, the heart beside the Alpha King. She worked daily with Cale to bring change. Together, they opened aid routes to forgotten colonies, built new learning centers for orphans, and improved healing stations where machines had once failed. Lyra always remembered what it was like to be ignored, so she made sure no one else felt that way under her watch. Cale trusted her deeply. He didn't just share power, he shared thoughts, plans, and hopes, where he brought strength and discipline. She brought empathy and understanding. Their balance became the foundation of a stronger rule. Still, not everything was easy. One day, a council meeting grew tense. Some nobles argued about legacy. They wanted Cale to take a royal heir, someone who could continue the bloodline. Quietly, they looked at Lyra, thinking of her old medical report. Cale stood up. A child does not carry legacy alone, he said. Our actions are what shape the future. And Lyra is part of every good thing this kingdom has become. I will not hear another word questioning her place. The room fell silent. After that day, the whispers stopped. Later that evening, Lyra sat on the palace balcony, looking out over the silver-lit city. Stars filled the sky above her, just like they had the night Cale first told her she mattered. He walked out and sat beside her. Are you all right? He asked. She nodded slowly. I used to believe I had no place in the world. Now, even with everything, sometimes I wonder if it's all real. Cale gently took her hand. It is real. And it's because you made it real? She smiled softly. Thank you for always standing with me. You stood with me first, he replied. Soon, their bond became a symbol for the people. Not a story of power and blood, but of trust, choice, and healing. Together, they adopted children who had no families, young ones from war-torn regions, abandoned stations, and broken ships. Lyra became a mother in a way no one expected. She didn't need to give birth to raise a strong generation. Her lessons, love, and leadership shaped the future more than any noble's child ever had. The children she cared for grew with pride, knowing they were chosen not by blood, but by heart. One day, while visiting a rebuilt colony, a young girl ran up to Lyra with a flower. "You're the one who saved the Alpha King, right?" she asked shyly. Lyra knelt down and smiled. "No, I just helped him when he needed it." "But he's strong," the girl said. "Why did he need help? Even the strongest need someone." Lyra answered, "And it's okay to be that someone." The girl hugged her. "I want to be like you." As Lyra stood, she looked at the sky again, the same stars, the same light. But she was no longer that forgotten girl from the outpost. She was a symbol now, not because she was perfect, but because she never stopped being kind, even when no one saw her worth. Back at the palace, Kale stood at the window, watching her return. When she entered, he smiled. "How was the visit?" "Beautiful," she replied. He stepped closer. "There's a meeting with foreign delegates tomorrow, and a quiet dinner after." She raised an eyebrow. "Quiet? With you?" He laughed. "As quiet as I can be." They walked together down the hall side by side, as they always had. Not because fate demanded it, but because they chose each other. And that choice changed the kingdom forever.